Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Mythgard Academy. This is session number 34 of Morte d'Arthur as we come near to the very end. This, of course, tonight's class is the last class that I had allocated for discussing the text tonight. Not going to lie, it's going to take some kind of miracle for me to get through everything I want to talk about the end of the story, but that's okay. Anticipating just such an eventuality, I left an extra week, so we should be fine there. On the offhand chance that I don't get through like 30 slides tonight, we will have an extra week to do that. So let me give you a glimpse of the road ahead here. Not only the end of the Malory class, but also the beginning of the next one. So we're going to be... We have... All right, let me come at it the other way around. Our next discussion on Sauron Defeated, the next volume of the History of Middle-earth, will begin on May 15th, Wednesday, May 15th. Next week, I am going to be out of the country. I'm going to be on vacation with my family. We're going to be driving around Iceland, which is going to be a lot of fun. So, anyway, that's... so I won't be here next week. So that will leave tonight, the 1st, and the 8th of May, right? So the 8th was the extra week that I was leaving. So we have 3 weeks, 3 Wednesdays prior to 3 operative Wednesdays, that is, counting today, before we begin Sauron Defeated. So if we end up taking 2 of those weeks, that is tonight and the 1st of May, to finish up the text, no harm done. That will still leave us with Wednesday, May 8th, to talk about Monty Python and the Holy Grail by popular demand. Many people have requested that we talk about that, and that seems really only fitting coming at the end of Malory here. So that's going to be probably the plan. Again, I'm kind of assuming we're not going to get through 30 slides tonight, and it will be two sessions. So it will be tonight, then break next week, and then the week after that, May 1st, we'll finish the text, and then May 8th, we'll do the Quest for the Holy Grail, and then May 15th, we will do our first session on Sauron Defeated. The schedule for Sauron Defeated isn't posted yet. I haven't had a chance to sit down and kind of map that out yet. It seems really odd now to plan a 10 session discussion on a book, since we've been talking about Malory for so long. But anyway, it'll all be good. Yeah, okay. Is there a link up? Devora, there might be. I'm not sure if the new webpage for the Sauron Defeated session has been made live yet or not. It'll be up soon, if not. There is a link exists, and we'll be sending that out soon. But anyway, cool. So yeah, okay. And I think, so Arthur, we're not going to talk about the Camelot film, though we will be discussing the Camelot film, not here, not next week. But the Mythgard Movie Club is going to do Camelot in May, at the end of May. So so soon after we finish, actually, we'll be doing an Arthurian Mythgard Movie Club, and I'm going to join them for that, of course. So that'll be a lot of fun. And anyway, we're going to, though, come to think of it, next week... no, not next week. Next day. Tomorrow, this very week as is. This Thursday night, which is tomorrow, is the next is the April Mythgard Movie Club, and they're going to be talking about the film Captive State. So that's this week, and then next month in May, we're going to be talking about Camelot, as we sort of celebrate completion of Malory, and we're going to be talking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail on the 8th of May. So that's the plan. That's the plan. Cool. So yeah, we will. Bruce, you want to talk about the Divine Comedy next? We could do the Divine Comedy. We'd probably have to vote that one in one volume at a time to be perfectly fair about things. But it wouldn't take that long to do, like, Inferno, 34 cantos, no big deal, right? But anyway. All right. I'd be perfectly willing to do Dante. I'm a big fan of Dante. That would be fun. Yeah, it has been nominated. I've seen it be nominated. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Always happy to talk about more medieval literature, of course. But anyhow. All right. Let us get to the text if we're even going to get halfway through the 30 passages I have left that I want to talk about. So, where did we leave things last time? We had gotten through the Knight of the Cart section and Lancelot's and Guinevere's bad decision and the bloody bed, and we did the trial with Sir Meliagant, and then we looked at the beginning, the moment, right? The moment of doom when they are finally caught, when this ambush is set for them by Agravain and Mordred. And we just finished with Agravain getting his head split open as Lancelot pops out into the hall, having yanked in a guy, put on his armor, and then gone out. Notice the way in which that sort of shifts this motif that we've seen from the very beginning, from the Book of Sir Lancelot on, right? We've been seeing Sir Lancelot routinely dressing up in somebody's armor, right? Usually to disguise himself, like he did with Sir Kay's armor way back when in the Book of Sir Lancelot. And interesting now that we see that same concept, Lancelot dressing up in somebody else's armor, played out in very dire and deadly fashion here, right, at this climactic moment. It's sort of an interesting sort of taking of that concept and shifting it around. But he leaves usually it's all in fun, Bruce, exactly. Less so here. So anyhow, he had just left agreeing with Guinevere that really the best thing to do was for him to make sure that he escapes himself so that he's able to rescue her later on. That's sort of the plan, and everybody seems to pretty much agree with this plan. So let's see where we go. So this is Lancelot when he gets back to his kin, right? Him reporting back about what happened. And therefore wit you well, my fair lordes, I am sure there nis but war unto me and to mine. And for cows I have slain this nicht Sir Agravain, Sir Gawayne his brother, and at the least 12 of his fellows. And for this cows now I am sure of mortal war. For these connectes were sent by King Arthur to betray me, and therefore the king will in this heat and malice judge the queen unto brenning. And that may I not suffer, that she shall be brent for my sack. For and I may be hard and suffered, and so taken I will fight for the queen, that she is a true laddie until her lord. But the king in his heat I dread will not tak me as I ought to be taken. My lord Sir Launcelot, said Sir Bors, be mine advice, ye shall tak the woe with the weal. And sithen it is fallen as it is, I counsel you to keep yourself, for and ye wool yourself. There is no fellowship of knights christened that shall do you wrong. And also I will counsel you, my lord, that my laddie Queen Guinevere, and she be in any distress, in such as she is in pine for your sack, that ye knichtly rescue her. For an ye did an any other wise, all the world would speak you sham to the world's end. Insomuch as you were talking with her, whether ye did right or the wrong, it is now your part to hold with the queen, that she be not slain and put to a mischievous death. For an she so die, the sham shall be evermore yours. Now Jesu defend me from sham, sighed Sir Launcelot, and keep and salve my laddie, the queen, from villainy and shameful death, that she never be destroyed in my default. Wherefore, my fair lordes, my kin and my friendes, sighed Sir Launcelot, what will ye do? And anon they sighed all with one voice, we will do as ye will do. Okay, so several things that are interesting here. One thing I would want to point out, because I think it's kind of easy to lose sight of this a little bit. Notice, because this is about an absence rather than a presence, right? Something that's not there in the text rather than something that is. So notice how Lancelot is not talking here, right? He's going to rescue Queen Guinevere. Why? Because she is his beloved, right? And he would give up his life for her, and he is going to take her away. Now, the two of them have been living, restraining their love for each other and, constraining themselves to follow but now, they're out of the closet now, right? Now it's in the open. Their relationship has been revealed. And so now they don't have to hide anymore. So he's going to swoop her away, and they're going to go off and they're going to live happily ever after, right? No one is talking even a little bit like that at all. What he says about her here, there is nothing in his speech about Guinevere here that even departs from this is exactly how he would have talked about her in front of Arthur, a month earlier, a year earlier, 10 years earlier, right? He is still speaking. He's speaking as the Queen's champion, right? He talks about, my lady Queen Guinevere, but he doesn't, again, he's not speaking like a courtly lover here. He is certainly not talking about someone who is looking to run off with his lady. He is interested. He wants to save her life because she's being falsely accused, as he's done many times before. And I want to say, and I think it's fair to say, as he would do for any other lady in this circumstance, right? I say especially because, he has double reasons, right? Double reasons, not even counting the whole courtly love thing, right? Not even counting the fact that he's in love with her and loves her out of measure long, right? That's not even entering into it here. Besides that, he has two other reasons. One, he is her champion, right? This is his job. His job under Arthur, his official job, is to be her champion and to fight for her if he believes her to be wrongly accused, right? Potentially, even if he doesn't believe her to be wrongly accused, right? Whether to defend her, whether in right or wrong, should he do that? Should he not do that? I don't know, but that's you could certainly argue that. But again, this is his job as champion. It is doubly his job because it's his fault that she's going to get burned at the stake, right? She is being accused of inappropriate activity with him, right? And he believes them to be, he's claiming that they are innocent, that the Queen is not guilty of what she's being accused of. And so again, so it would be double shame to him, right? Double, triple shame to him if she were to be burnt here, right? But again, yeah, James, that's a really good way to talk about it here. James says he's speaking of her as if he were her lawyer, not as if he were her lover, right? There's no love speech here at all. No love speech here. And that's really interesting to me. So now, several of you are kind of looking at Lancelot's claims, which he is making here, and he is going to make again and again, right? For and I might be hard and suffered, and so talking, I will fight for the Queen, that she is a true laddie unto her lord. I'm going to fight that to show that Guinevere is faithful to her husband. And I know that a bunch of you are like, but we all know that's a load of hooey, right? She's not a faithful lady until her lord, right? They have slept together at least once, right? Minimum of one time. There is no sense in which she is a perfectly true lady until her lord. Yeah, what's with the claim of innocence? Exactly. What's with the claim of innocence? Bruce, I agree with you, by the way, that Bors has known the Skinny for quite some time here, right? When he was, I agree with you, Bruce, when he's counseling Lancelot to stick with Elaine number 2, right? In the passage we looked at, what, class before last, we can see that he was trying to head things off, right? And indeed would have, right? If the reading that Malory seems really insistent on in the end here, that is that they have not slept together until the time of the night of the card incident. If that's the case, had Lancelot married Elaine, maybe they never would have, right? Maybe that would have been avoided entirely. But does Lancelot really believe in the claim of innocence, or is he lying? I have a hard time with this because I think the answer is not quite so simple. Remember the model we already have for this. The model we already have for this is the melee combat, right? Think of the way that Malory has set this up. This is the 3rd time that Guinevere is being accused, right? There has been a pile of firewood stacked up, right? A pile of firewood with Queen Guinevere's name on it 3 times so far here, right? In the end of this book. Look back at what happened in the other 2 times, right? The first time, she looked guilty as anything to everybody in that whole murder of Sir Patrice. Wasn't it Sir Patrice? I'm forgetting if he was the dude who was killed or the dude who did the killing. But anyway, the whole poisoned apple incident, right? She looked really guilty. Most of the people there, including Bors initially, kind of thought maybe she was guilty and didn't want to fight for her, right? Because they weren't convinced, they weren't sure that she was not guilty of killing that guy, right? Maybe trying to kill Gawayne. After all, lots of people want to kill Gawayne. And it's hard to blame them sometimes. Anyway, so we have our first situation, right, where Guinevere is confronting a pile of firewood with her name on it. She is in fact innocent. She didn't do the thing. It looks bad. She is, like, in a sense, even technically guilty. In that, I mean, she didn't actually poison the apple with malice aforethought, but again, she was responsible. Like, there's a sense in which she was sort of at least technically culpable because she was the host. It was her fruit that killed the guy, right? Anyway, like it was, but she was exonerated, right? Lancelot fights for her, and is correct, despite the fact that it looked really bad, right? He fought for her in a way, and remember the dynamics of that. Most of the other knights of the court thought she was guilty, right? And then here Lancelot comes along and he's like, I don't care. I'm going to fight for the queen and defend her, even though she looks guilty. And made it good, right? Now, it was true. She was innocent, right? But we see that pattern that's established. Second pile of firewood is when she's accused by Meleagant, right? With the bloody bed incident. This one, much more complicated, right? Once again, she is in fact innocent of the charge. The charge was that she slept with one of the wounded knights that she was sheltering there in her bedchamber. She was in fact innocent of that charge. Lancelot again fought for her, even though it looked really bad, right? And there was lots of presumptive evidence, circumstantial evidence, to suggest, just as there was before, in some ways even more so than there was before, to suggest that she was guilty, right? but he fought for her, and he got her off. He wins, right? Of course, the major difference is that the second time she is only innocent by a technicality. She was, in fact, in bed with a wounded knight, just not one of those wounded knights. She was accused of sleeping with the wrong wounded knight. Anyway, that's once again, she looks guilty. Her innocence is maintained and proven, but her innocence here is very slender, right? And only purely formal, purely technical. She is guilty that second time. Third time, she's being accused again when Lancelot is found in her chamber, trapped there by Gawayne, Mordred, and Posse, right? As far as we can see, as far as Malory tells us, they're innocent, again, on that occasion, right? He is in her bedchamber, indiscreet, but not criminal, right? He came there for no malengin, he says, and is probably correct about that, right? There is, again, another sense in which they are technically innocent. She is technically innocent of this charge also. She was not in bed with Lancelot as she is being accused of being. And so, again, he has the legal ground to stand on to insist that the charges against her are unfounded and that she should be let off, right? That she should be... now, a trial by combat is not going to be permitted, right? So he has to come in and rescue her, and feels that he has the high moral ground in coming in to rescue her. So, again, when we look back over this whole pattern, everything, the way that Malory has been setting this up, notice what has been at stake all the way along, right? There is sort of the truth, and there's the appearance. But it's not just the truth and the appearance. And remember, the truth and the appearance has been a major theme all the way back through the Book of Lancelot and Guinevere, right? Ever since the Grail quest. The Grail quest, of course, in which we were meant to look through the surface, right? To interpret the surface and see what it really points to, right? The Grail quest in which so much of the surface was really just a message, right? Just a sign pointing to a signifier, right? To a sign pointing to a signified, rather, right? Something beneath it, the allegory that you're supposed to interpret. But anyway, the discrepancy between outward seeming and the inward essence of the thing has been a factor ever since Lancelot came home. But there's another... it's not just the appearance and the reality, right? There's sort of three things. So, like, if you take that second instance again, the Meleagant instance, right? There's really three different levels. On the one hand, there's the superficial level. It looks really bad. She looks guilty. Then there's the sort of legal reality. She is in fact innocent, and Lancelot is justified in fighting for her and maintaining her innocence. But then there's yet a third level in which it's really as bad as it looks, right? The essence, the truth, the deepest truth of the matter is that she is that both of them are guilty, right? So, back to answering the question, how are we supposed to be responding to this? How are we supposed to be responding to the maintaining of innocence? And what do they even think about it? Does anybody buy it? Is Lancelot sort of inviting other people to sort of indulge in a legal fiction? Lancelot has established a pattern of getting her off on technicalities. He's not only a great knight, he'd be a great lawyer, right? The way he manipulates the trial, especially in the Sir Meleagant instance, is kind of masterly, actually. Right? Remember, he's the one who articulates the oath. Yeah, Nancy, I agree with you. That second case is actually a little worse than it looks. I agree. It is a little worse than it looks. Anyway, he has established this pattern of getting her off on a technicality. The reason I'm so hesitant, the reason I'm kind of hedging here, is that I think that a thing that many readers do with the end of the Lancelot and Guinevere story in Malory, which I think a mistake, is oversimplifying it. Either, like, basically to say, if you say, Malory wants us to believe them, right? Malory wants us to exonerate them. He's just like, he loves Lancelot and Guinevere, right? And so he wants us to kind of smooth things over and be okay with that, with everything being okay. You can maintain that reading, but I think it's very oversimplified. I think that the truth is a good deal more complicated than that. You can similarly maintain that that this is an absurdity, right? That Lancelot's oaths and, claims of virtue and honesty are proven a sham here, right? That he has been thoroughly corrupted, that he's like abandoned the truth and the promises that he swore to in the Grail quest completely, right? Lancelot is living a lie. You can maintain that, right? I think that's easier to maintain, frankly, than the first reading. But I still think that that is an oversimplification. Especially in this third case. Again, we have those same three levels. It looks bad. They were caught alone in her bedroom. That looks bad, right? But the legal reality beneath it, they were not, in fact, in bed. He didn't do it for any malengin, right? They didn't hop into bed together, Malory suggests pretty strongly, right? And again, here, remember, as I said before, his source text in the French books, they do hop. They are caught in bed, right? They are actually naked in bed together when Gawayne starts pounding on the door. They are, in fact, caught in the act. Malory goes pretty far out of his way to draw attention to the fact that they're probably not, in fact, in bed, right? Thus creating this much more complicated situation where, again, she is technically innocent of what she is being accused of here. But it doesn't change the fact that there's still this deeper level, right? There's still this deeper level on which, yeah, it is true. And no, she is not a true lady unto her lord. She's just not. That's not true. Even though. But the point is the complicated tangle of things here, right? The complicated legal situation. What should Lancelot do? What should Lancelot do? Right? What should Guinevere do? What they're doing is not yet the best thing that they could be doing. But it's also not the worst thing that they could be doing, right? They're in the wrong. Lancelot is in the wrong. He's lying, right? Possibly even to himself about her being a true lady until her lord, right? But Gawayne is in the wrong too. And even more in the wrong. And Arthur is in the wrong. His conclusion that he is going to burn her at the stake without trial, essentially, that's not a good look. Even his agreement to allow Gawayne and Mordred, for crying out loud, to lay a trap like this, also not a good look. Arthur's not looking great here. Gawayne looks horrible because he is horrible. And Mordred, because he's horrible too. And Lancelot and Guinevere are not looking good. All are culpable. All are involved. And if the protestation seems hollow, I think it should. But what I would urge you to notice, if you take out that one sentence, that she is a true lady until her lord, everything else works. Everything else is right. He's not wrong in any other way. I'm not saying this in order to convince you that you should just, like, get over it, right? Overlook it, right? Well, okay, he's stretching the truth there, but, you know, his heart's generally in the right place. I'm not saying that. But again, I am saying that I think that that's a really important element of what's going on here. Lancelot, it's not a black and white situation, right? Lancelot has not just gone off the rails. He's trying to do the right thing, but he's not going all the way. The situation that Malory creates here is a much more complicated situation, and therefore a much more real situation. The thing that I love most about the ending of this book is the way in which Malory sets up this situation to show people struggling with real and complicated things, right? Lancelot is, to me, such a fascinating and interesting hero at the end of this book for exactly these kinds of speeches, right? Because he is delivering a speech. If he were delivering a speech which was a lie all the way through, that would be one thing, right? He's delivering a speech which is 90% true, and which he knows to be only 90% true. But it's enough true that he can convince himself that he's doing the right thing. Because he is doing the right thing generally, and he has all kinds of grounds for rationalizing what he's saying and what he's doing, right? And again, I don't know about you, but I've been here before, right? I can understand this kind of situation. It is, I think, a really complex and interesting situation. And Malory, I think, is... he's not simple. He was resisting simple situations. I mean, again, the whole pattern all the way along has been nothing is as simple as it looks, right? This isn't going to get easy. And they have messed up. He's not going to let them off. He's not trying to let them off for the bloody bed incident, right? Lancelot is lying here. He is forswearing himself. That is a shame. It would be a greater shame for him to let Guinevere be burned. What can he do? What should he do? What is the way out of this? Right? What happens? Yeah. Yeah, and Dollar Stroke, I agree. This is a kind of a tricky situation. He's pointing out that this is the particular moral quandary that Malory is depicting here is, as Dollar Stroke points out, an unmodern situation on two fronts. First, that adultery can be a capital crime due to treason, and second, that a spouse in a self-denying courtly love affair still respects the marriage. It's two non-principles forming a non-conflict to moderns. I know it is. There are many things about sort of the terms of this which all seem a little bit alien, and the whole thing seeming a little bit weird. In particular, I would emphasize the second one there for a second. It seems to me that to a lot of modern readers, the idea that Lancelot could say, "She is a true laddie unto her lord," forget the fact that they've committed adultery the once, right? Even if they hadn't committed adultery, right? I mean, in a situation where you're like, yes, like she and I have loved each other out of measure and out of measure long, you know, we've been having this emotional affair for the last 25 years, but she's always, you know, been true to her lord. You know, most modern people would not say that a wife in that situation really has been true to her husband, right? Even if she's, you know, been sexually faithful, right? But I agree. she is, like, that's okay. She is a true laddie until her lord is still, like, almost entirely true, right? Just the one lapse there, is the only problem there. It's mostly true, and it's mostly true in a way in which I don't think it feels mostly true. It doesn't seem to ring. It seems like I think it rings more false to modern people than it would to a medieval audience, I think. Yeah. Watch how we're gonna see several of Lancelot's protestations here, right? Watch how this develops. Watch how he talks about this. So, Bors is concerned, right? Sir, that shall be the least care of us all, sighed Sir Bors. For how did the most noble knight Sir Tristram, by your good will, kept not he with him La Belle Isoud near 3 years in Joyous Gard, the which was done by your author's advice, and that some place is your own, and in likewise may ye do, and ye list, and take the queen knickly away with you, if so be that the king will judge her to be brent. And in Joyous Gard may ye keep her long enow, until the heat be past of the king, and then it may fortune you to bring the queen again to the king with great worship, and peradventure ye shall have then thunk for your bringing home where other may happen to have magre. Now, keep in mind here, so again, notice Bors, the context of Bors's advice here, right? Lancelot rescues the queen, and they go off to Joyous Gard together. Again, to a modern audience, this might sound like an elopement, right? So let's go off and live together. Again, they're living the dream at last, right? Lancelot and Guinevere, after decades of longing glances and self-restraint, right? Now they're going off and they're in their little love nest in Joyous Gard, right? And then after a while, he's like, I'll take you back to your husband, whatever, right? From the beginning, that is not conceived in that way at all. Once again, just like Lancelot was speaking, not like her lover, but like her lawyer before, as James was pointing out, here, once again, Bors is saying the same thing. Why are they going to go to Joyous Gard, right? So they can be happy together, even if only briefly? No, not at all. The explicit purpose is to take her, to keep her safe from the king until such time as she can be safely returned to the king. There is never an intention to take her and make off with her, right? He's not eloping with the queen. She's not escaping Arthur's court. He is sheltering her from Arthur's wrath. Arthur is out of control right now, right? He's going to condemn her without proper trial. When the king's wrath passes, right, then with great worship. I mean, I would point out a couple words here. First, take the queen knickly away with you. Take the queen away knightly, right? Which means in part by force of arms, but also I think it means, with courtesy and propriety, right? Again, this is not run off with her and take her to your love nest. This is, as the queen's champion, you go and you defend the queen, and then you keep her here, and in all sort of properness, and and they're all with him, right? We can all vouch for this, and then we'll return with the explicit purpose, and then it may fortune you to bring the queen again to the king with great worship, right? The king's going to be, when he comes around, King Arthur will thank you for this. Everyone will thank you and praise you for this. Everyone will acknowledge that you have done the right thing. To let her die is obviously wrong, right? But to rescue her, but then to hold on to her, right? And to then reconcile things with Arthur, that's the right thing to do here. clearly the right thing to do. With great worship, that will be done. Yeah, Dolar Stroke is wondering how Guinevere feels about Lancelot's objectivity. Yeah, we're not hearing much about that, are we? Of course, this is still the men talking among themselves while Guinevere is still captive, right? And preparing to be burned at the stake. So she's not present to voice her opinion on this. We have seen her in the past, however, be somewhat less dispassionate about this kind of thing than Lancelot has been, right? Not about the rescuing her from being burned at the stake, but and now, Nancy, you are absolutely right. When Tristram runs off with Isolde and lives with her for 3 years in Joyous Gard, they are living together in their love nest, right? I mean, yes, the parallel with Tristan and Isolde and Lancelot and Guinevere, as I was pointing out before, is very relevant, right? And one of the effects here, Bors explicitly invites us to make that connection, right? Explicitly invites us to make the connection and says, you can take her away to Joyous Gard just like Tristram took Isolde, right? Okay, just like Tristram took Isolde, right? They were kind of running off together. They did kind of elope together. And one of the cautions here is, look what happened to Tristram, right? Tristram was killed when he took her back to King Mark. They did go back to Cornwall eventually, right? Which leads directly to his murder, right? As Lancelot is about to point out, that is hard for to do, said Sir Launcelot. And that is hard for to do. What's he referring to? He's referring to the returning Guinevere to Arthur, right? That is hard for to do, sighed Sir Launcelot, for by Sir Tristram I may have a warning. For when by means of treatise Sir Tristram brought again la belle Isolde unto King Mark from Joyous Gard, look ye knew what fell on the end, how shamefully that false traitor King Mark slew him as he sat harping afore his laddie la belle Isolde. With a grounden glaive he thrust him in behind to the heart, which grieveth sore me, sighed Sir Launcelot. To speak of his death, for all the world may not find such another knecht. All right, stay on target here, Lancelot, as far as the conversation is concerned. And notice Sir Bors isn't concerned. All this is truth, sighed Sir Bors, but there is one thing shall courage you and us all. Ye know well that King Arthur and King Mark were never like of conditions, and there was never yet man that ever could prove King Arthur untrue of his promise. King Mark was an absolutely untrustworthy git, and King Arthur isn't, right? So I wouldn't worry so much, Sir Lancelot. Notice Sir Lancelot is wondering whether he can trust Arthur here, and not totally without reason. As Arthur, again, has not covered himself with glory in this exchange here either, right? But Bors is clearly right. Arthur is not Mark. And he is not going to most likely have Lancelot whacked with a spear in the back after accepting her back. Let's see. Yeah, Mordred might. Yeah, he might. Mordred is still around, unfortunately. Mordred being the only one who escaped, right, of the posse at the door of the Queen's chamber. This advice is, again, Nancy, I want to come back to what you were saying before. The parallel with Tristram and Isolde is uncomfortable, right? Because he wasn't doing the right thing. Tristram wasn't doing the right thing, right? Whereas Lancelot seems to want to, says that he wants to. Okay, anyway, let's keep looking at this. So, Sir Gawayne and King Arthur find out about the death of all the knights that Lancelot killed there, right, in escaping from Guinevere's room, among whom are a number of Gawayne's kin. Agravain, of course, is his brother. But in addition to that, his sons, 2 of his sons are there, right? And other kin of his. I mean, he's got a bunch of people in whom he is invested, right? Who are killed. And we've seen Gawayne, want to commit murder for a good deal less than this before. And remember that Lancelot believes now he's killed Sir Agravain, Gawayne's going to be coming after him forever now, right? He is expecting the worst from Gawayne here. Here's Gawayne's actual words to the king. Then spake Sir Gawayne and said, My lord Arthur, I wold counsel you not to be over hasty, but that ye wold put it in respite this judgment of my lady the queen for many causes. On is this, though it were so that Sir Launcelot were found in the queen's chamber, yet it might be so that he come thither for none evil. For ye know, my lord, sighed Sir Gawayne, that my lady the queen hath oftentimes been greatly beholden unto Sir Launcelot, more than to any other knight. For oftentimes he hath saved her life, and done battle for her, when all the court refused the queen. As we said, it's the 3rd instance. And peradventure she went for him for goodness, and for none evil, to reward him for his good deeds that he had done to her in times past. And peradventure my lady the queen sent for him for that intent, that Sir Launcelot should come privily to her, weening that it had be best in eschewing and dreading of slander. For oftentimes we do many things that we ween for the best be, and yet peradventure it turneth to the worst. For I dare say, said Sir Gawayne, my lady your queen is to you both good and true. And as for Sir Launcelot, I dare say he will make it good upon any knight living that will put upon him of villainy, of sham, and in like wise he will make good for my lady the queen. This is a very remarkable speech from Sir Gawayne, right? Lancelot does not expect this of Gawayne. I didn't really expect this of Gawayne, right? But this is what we get from Gawayne. Gawayne says, hey, let's give Lancelot and Guinevere the benefit of the doubt here, right? Maybe they were innocent. Makes sense. It's very possible, right? It's, in fact, really plausible. The fact that he was found in her chamber doesn't mean necessarily, it doesn't prove that they're guilty. In fact, notice how he goes almost to the opposite extreme, right? It might even, they might have, is it imprudent for them to meet in private in her chamber like this? Well, yeah, I mean, it looks bad, but maybe they did this in eschewing and dreading of slander, right? That is, he's blaming Agravain. Agravain has been spreading rumors about them, right? And they know that Agravain has been spreading rumors about them, and she wants to reward him and give him gifts like she should, right? Because, he deserves it, and this is her job too. So they're going to do this in private, right? So as to avoid slander. And then ironically, right, it doubles back on them but Gawayne says sagely, right, this oftentimes this kind of thing happens, right? We do something that we think is going to be for the best, and yet peradventure it turns out for the worst, right? The very thing that we do to try to avoid trouble lands us in the trouble that, we were trying to avoid. Oh man, I've been there before, right? So Sir Gawayne is like, okay, this is, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Patricia says, who are you and what have you done with Gawayne? Yes, absolutely. Nancy points out that doing things for the best that turn to the worst is a pretty good plot summary of the whole story. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. This is the interesting thing. If you go back and you look at Malory's sources here, Sir Gawayne is, in the French book, Sir Gawayne, first of all, does not have the... Malory, as I've spoken of before, Malory has made Gawayne a bigger villain than Sir Gawayne has ever been in the history of Sir Gawayne. So that's already a change in one direction that Malory has made from his sources. Gawayne, however, the speech that Gawayne is making here is the role that Gawayne has in the source texts as well. In fact, in the source texts, Gawayne is much stronger here. One detail, which is super evocative, which is in the French source but not in Malory, when Gawayne gives this advice and says, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, I'm sure that Lancelot is fine, I'm sure this is a misunderstanding, Agravain is dead, but it's his stupid fault, right? I can't blame Lancelot for killing those guys because they were wrong. They were in the wrong, and it's shame on them, and I can't blame Lancelot for that. And then Arthur still insists on burning her at the stake, and Gawayne, in response to that, divests himself of all of his lands. He leaves Arthur's service, right? He is so adamant. He draws a line in the sand, right? He says, if you are going to go through with condemning Guinevere, I am out. I am completely out. I am your number one supporter. I am going to give up every piece of, all of the fiefdoms that I hold from you, and I'm going back to Orkney. On my own, on my family land, and I will not be your like that. And he does it. He divests himself of when Arthur insists on executing her. He divests himself of all of his lands. It's a big deal, right? Gawayne really puts his money where his mouth is. Malory takes that bit out, right? So Gawayne is less insistent on this here than he is in the source texts, but the gap between the good Gawayne of most of the source texts and almost all of the earlier tradition and the bad Gawayne of Sir Malory get kind of closer here than we've seen them anywhere in the text, right? The remnant of the good Gawayne rears his head here. And I think that this is a really... I don't know, there are lots of crit-fic reasons we could give for this, but the way that we can sort of see this functioning here, Sir Gawayne is not all bad. He's never been all bad, though sometimes it's kind of looked like that. There was always some sort of hint or suggestion that there was something good in him that Arthur liked, and it wasn't just absolute and rampant favoritism, or nepotism. Yeah. David Urbach says he's been picturing his character arc in Malory, picturing him as someone who is ultimately unhappy with the results of his own bad temper. Yeah, I'm not sure if he does have a wake-up call in the Grail quest, but it's possible, David. I mean, that's one of the things, right? Remember that we did get, at least during the Grail quest, we didn't see him wake up. He's given bunches of opportunities to wake up, right? Like that classic non-confession scene, right, where he's invited to confess and he's like, no, actually I'm good, right? I figure I've done enough penance, right? Yeah. He doesn't do it. But I agree with you, David, that can be made to work, right? We see him come back to the court, and now we're seeing him act differently. He's not been like this before. What changed? Did the quest for the Holy Grail have an impact after the fact? Does he look at things a little bit differently now than he used to look at things? Maybe he does. Maybe he does. At least it seems so, based on this speech, right? And after all, why does Malory follow Sir Gawayne in the Grail quest at all, right? He not only follows him, he comes back to him a couple times, right? Just to be a negative example? Just to be the poster child of the knights who totally fail? I mean, that's kind of one of his roles, sure, but
But given the fact that afterwards we do see him now, we've seen very little from him, but what we have seen from him has been, remember, he was already more productive, right? Back in the whole Elaine sequence. He was not stirring up trouble. He was not just, he did stir up trouble in the sense that he's the one who ferreted out where Lancelot was and outed him with the whole Elaine business, which got him into trouble with Guinevere. But when I talk about causing trouble, I mean Gawayne-style trouble, like ambushing good knights and murdering them by stabbing them in the back, kind of making trouble, right? And he's not been doing that kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, look at Arthur's response. "That I believe well," said King Arthur, "but I will not that way work with Sir Launcelot, for he trusteth so much upon his hondas and his micht that he doubteth no man, and therefore for my queen he shall never more ficht, for she shall have the law. And if I may get Sir Launcelot, wit you well he shall have as shameful a death." "Jesu defend me," sighed Sir Gawayne, "that I never see hit, no know hit." Yeah, God prevent me ever doing that. Ever seeing that come to pass. Arthur's conviction that Guinevere should die, he's not going to let Lancelot get her off this time. His conviction that Lancelot should die a shameful death, should he ever catch him, right? Again, it's complicated because he's not wrong, right? He's not wrong. He's like, I'm not going to give Guinevere a trial, right? Lancelot trusteth so much upon his hondas and his micht that he doubteth no man. So he'll fight for her again and get her off, right? Because he's the best knight in the world. This is Arthur saying, I don't believe in trial by combat. Certainly not when Lancelot is involved, right? That system is broken. Lancelot has exploited that system for the last time. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. We've seen Lancelot exploiting it, right? Though not in the way that Arthur... See, he's not wrong, except he kind of is wrong, right? Lancelot hasn't just exploited it. Lancelot has never yet fought for Guinevere and gotten her off when she was guilty, just because he was a better fighter, right? That's never actually happened. He has been in the right. He has manipulated the trials. He has manipulated the system, but not that way, right? He has not simply just overridden it with his own prowess. Once again, it's complicated. Arthur is wrong, but he's not wrong, but he is wrong. Right? Again, those same three levels. He's technically wrong. In substance, he's not wrong. On the deepest level, his attitude towards Guinevere and Lancelot here is deeply wrong, right? It's all very complicated. And then the tragedy. Remember that Gawayne will not show up. Arthur charges all of those knights of his kin to protect the queen. He knows Lancelot's going to try to rescue her, and he says, go and guard her, right? Keep her. Gawayne refuses point blank. He won't go. Not under any circumstances. Gareth and Gaheris, because they are sternly commanded by Arthur, say that they'll go, but they go unarmed, right? They don't wear their armor. And so in this rushing and hurling, as Sir Launcelot thrang here and there, it misfortuned him to slay Sir Gaheris and Sir Gareth, the noble knight, for they were unarmed and unwares. As the French book saith, Sir Launcelot smote Sir Gaheris and Sir Gareth upon the brain panes, where through that they were slain in the field. Howbeit in very truth Sir Launcelot saw them not, and so were they found dead among the thickest of the press. Then Sir Launcelot, when he had thus done, and slain and put to flight all that would withstand him, then he rode straight unto Queen Guinevere, and mad cast a kirtle and a gown upon her. She's in her shift, she's in her underwear, right, getting ready to be burned at the stake. So he's brought a dress. I love that he brings a dress, right, on his rescue attempt, because he knows how this is going to go down. And then he made her to be set behind him, and prayed her to be of good cheer. Now wit you well, the queen was glad that she was at that time escaped from the death, and then she thanked God and Sir Launcelot. Everything has gone well, right? This is just how it's supposed to be, except for the one thing, right? The one horrible thing. Now, he kills a bunch of people here, including Sir Griflet is killed here, one of my personal favorite knights, Sir Griflet. And many other knights that we're familiar with. I think Sir Segwarides finally gets it here too. Anyway, a whole bunch of knights are killed. That's okay. I mean, it's okay. Contact sport, right? This, and they're kind of in the wrong, right? And they are in a wrong quarrel here. King Arthur's quarrel is the wrong quarrel, which Gawayne knows, right? It's why Gawayne refuses. It's why Gareth and Gaheris semi-refuse, right? So nobody sheds too many tears over the many named Sir Tor, the bastard son of King Pellinore. As I recall, I'm pretty sure he's in that list too, of the knights who are killed here by Sir Lancelot et al. When they come and rescue the queen. But again, they're in the wrong. They're fighting on the wrong side. But Sir Gaheris and Sir Gareth, that's the tragedy. And absolutely, Brian, is this a part of God's judgment on Lancelot? Here in this scene is fulfilled the prophecy, right? The foreshadowing that Lancelot himself uttered in that speech, which we have come back to so many times over the course of the last 500 pages, right? When Lancelot says, the reason he's not going to love anyone paramours is that when you love somebody paramours and when you start going that direction, right, when you allow yourself to be morally corrupted in these ways, what happens to you, right? Well, one of the things that you notice is that knights in that kind of a situation, they will tend to kill people by unhap that they didn't mean to, right? Just bad stuff happens, such as killing your friends accidentally. And Jennifer, you're right. Nobody's really fighting in a right cause here, right? Nobody's cause is completely right. Nobody's cause is completely wrong. This is a mess. This is a mess already, right? Again, I think the primary point that I would make throughout this whole section, if on reading this, you are feeling like there's clearly somebody in the right, clearly somebody in the wrong, I think you're reading it wrong. I really do. This is much more complicated than that. But yes, this is finally, so this is Lancelot's unhap. And so, Brian, absolutely, yeah. This means this is a judgment on Lancelot. He brought this on himself. He brings this on Sir Gareth and Sir Gaheris. This is his fault. He has done wrong. He is doing wrong, though he's also doing right. And it would be more wrong not to attack, right? But this whole messy, complicated situation is still his fault, too. He's allowed this to happen. Should have just kept his vow that he made to renounce all this in the quest for the Holy Grail, shouldn't he? Arthur laments his knights. Well, said Arthur, the death of them will cause that is Gaheris and Gareth, will cause the greatest mortal war that ever was, for I am sure that when Sir Gawayne canoeth hereof that Sir Gareth is slain, I shall never have rest of him till I have destroyed Sir Launcelot his kin and himself both, other else he to destroy me. And therefore, said the king, wit you well, my heart was never so heavy as it is now, and much more I am sorrier for my good Knecht is lost than for the loss of my fair queen, for queen as I might have now. but such a fellowship of good connectors shall never be togethers in no company. And now I dare say, said King Arthur, there was never Christian king that ever held such a fellowship togethers. And alas that ever Sir Launcelot and I should be at debat. Ah, Agravine, said the king, Jesu forgive it thy soul, for thine evil will that thou hadst, and Sir Mordred, thy brother, under Sir Launcelot, hath caused all this sorrow. And ever among these complaints the king wept and sooned. Remember, we were talking about the factions, right? And how ominous this was and how dangerous this was. Remember when we were talking about the political circumstances of the court and how many people in the court owe their personal allegiance to Lancelot first and Arthur second, right? All of these things come home now. Now that Arthur and Lancelot are at debat, right? Now that they're in conflict, now that they're stuck, both of them stuck, right? And Arthur knows there is no way now, right? Gawayne has been the voice of reason to this point. He knows it's not going to last any longer, right? Alas that ever Sir Launcelot and I should be at debat. He knows this is the end of his kingdom. There's no way. There's no way. He's unlikely even to survive this. They're unlikely even to survive a conflict with Sir Lancelot. But there is no winning scenario here, right? Him being at war with Sir Lancelot, his entire realm, this united fellowship, all holy togethers. Remember that repeated phrase? When they were all holy togethers on that one day when Galahad arrived before they went off on the quest for the Holy Grail, and they were all holy togethers. And now we see the absolute opposite of all holy togethers, right? As they are all divided and against each other, and all divided and at debat. And it literally doesn't matter who wins, right? Literally doesn't matter who wins. Carrie says she wants to be mad about the "I could have queens enough" line, but like he's not wrong. Yeah. Well, I know that's probably not going to win him many fans, but remember, saying this is probably not going to win me any fans, but remember, she's just his wife. Remember how little that means, right? Or remember exactly what that means, right? It means a lot in one sense, right? Politically, it can mean a lot, but it doesn't mean nearly as much politically as the other. And but personally, it doesn't mean that much, right? Yeah. Now, David, you're right. David is recalling that in his youth, how Merlin tried to get him to marry somebody else, but he insisted on having Guinevere, right? David, I was remembering that line too, right? You can hear now him seeing retroactively the wisdom of that, right? This is almost like a repentance of that moment of folly then when he went against Merlin's advice and married Guinevere anyway, right? Yeah. Anyway, I don't ask you to share the medieval perspective on marriage, but again, marriage is a bond of political and financial convenience almost exclusively. So there's almost nobody would disagree with that statement, right? That, a queen isn't worth fighting for, right? The dissolution of his entire kingdom is to him much, much worse. Yeah, that's interesting. Carrie says, while she is queen, she must be defended. When she is dethroned, she's replaceable. Yeah, he could let her go, right? He could let her go and replace her. At the very least, he could let them both go, right? And end up with a halved court, which And that seems to be, by the way, Carrie, the only other option here, right? If Gawayne would let it be, if Gawayne would agree to continue on the same reasonable line that he was on before, then that's what could happen here. But it's not going to happen, right? The two halves of his court are now going to have to fight each other. Yeah, and Stephen, I do suspect so. If Gareth hadn't been slain, that probably is what would have happened, right? Now, Lancelot and Bors are planning to try to restore Guinevere to Arthur, right? Maybe that works out, maybe it doesn't, but they don't necessarily have to fight, right? He could let them go. There is a potential happily ever after, everybody lives mostly happily ever after scenario, theoretically here, right? But that's not how it's going to work out. Just as Malory really draws to our attention, will not let us escape from the moral complexity of the situation. Nobody's completely right. Nobody's completely wrong. He also refuses to let them off, right? He will not let anybody get out the easy way from any of these situations. The fact is, Gareth's brain pan is in fact going to be punctured, right? Gareth is going to be killed. And we will see other circumstances, of course, where fate conspires to bring about the destruction, right? Brian is wondering if Arthur could command Gawayne to lay aside his quarrel and be reconciled. I don't know that it's beyond his... I don't know that it's beyond his power as a king. I think it's beyond his power as a person. Arthur can't. Because, Brian, think about that in the same way we've been talking about all these other things, right? Gawayne's insistence on vengeance against Lancelot. He's not wrong. He's not wrong, right? What happened was really bad. Lancelot killed Sir Gareth and Sir Gaheris, and they were unarmed, right? He killed them when they were unarmed. He slew the people who were trying to defend him, Lancelot, and he killed them. Gawayne's brothers. He's not wrong to be mad about that. He's not wrong to want to take that out of Lancelot's hide. Lancelot deserves punishment for what he did, except he is wrong, right? He's not wrong, except he is. I mean, again, even with Gawayne, you can see this working. Well, let's more on Gawayne. "My king, my lord, and mine uncle," sighed Sir Gawayne, "wit you well, now I shall mak you a promise, which I shall hold by me knichthood, that from this day forward I shall never fail Sir Launcelot until that one of us have slain that other. And therefore I require you, my lord and king, dress you unto the wars, for wit you well I will be revenged upon Sir Launcelot, and therefore, as ye will have my service and my love, now hast you thereto, and assay your friendes. For I promise unto God," sighed Sir Gawayne, "for the death of my brother, Sir Gareth, I shall seek Sir Launcelot throughout 7 kinges' realmes, but I shall slay him, other else he shall slay me." "Sire, ye shall not need to seek him so far," said the king, "for as I hear say, Sir Launcelot will abide me and us all within the castle of Joyous Gard, and much people draweth unto him, as I hear say." "That may I right well believe," sighed Sir Gawayne, "but my lord," he said, "assay your friendes, and I will assay mine." Why doesn't Arthur just give Sir Gawayne a nice big time out and refuse to go to war with Sir Lancelot? He says he doesn't want to go to war with Sir Lancelot. Gawayne is like, "No, you've got to go to war with Sir Lancelot." And Arthur's like, "Okay, I guess we're going to war with Sir Lancelot." Is King Arthur just being a wuss here, or no? No, he's not. What does he say? Notice the weight of Gawayne's words here. let's see. Therefore, as ye will have my service and my love. What does that mean? As ye will have my service and my love, now hast you thereto, and asai your friendes. What does that mean? What are the implications? Do you hear the threat there? What's the threat? If you would have my service, you will do this. If you don't do this, yeah, he's threatening to leave the court also. Exactly. Remember all those tournaments? Remember at Lonazep, for instance? And I think the Castle of Maidens. Maybe it's the Castle of Maidens I'm thinking of. So remember when there were the Orcish Knights? We were making jokes about Orcish Knights? Those Orkney Knights? Sir Lancelot's kin was on the opposition side. So we had prefigured the struggle there. Who was fighting for King Arthur in that tournament? Only Sir Gawayne and the Orcish Knights, right? When Sir Lancelot and his kin were on the opposite side, it was just Sir Gawayne and his. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering Lonazep, because that's then when Sir Gareth and Sir Dinadan and Sir Tristram and Sir and not Sir Palomides switched over, right, to fight for King Arthur. We got that glimpse there, right? At the end of the day, if everyone else is against them, he still has Gawayne and his kin, right? His own personal blood, Arthur's own personal blood kin, are his final core, right? Lancelot is, core, C-O-R-E, right? The core of his political and military strength. Lancelot, of course, was the primary pillar of the strength of his court, and Lancelot's kin and all of Lancelot's vassals, right? A huge chunk of the Round Table basically belongs to Lancelot. So as long as Lancelot is his, he's fine. He's lost that now. What does he have left? Well, now he has Sir Gawayne and all of Sir Gawayne's kin, and a very small number of people besides. Gawayne doesn't even have to threaten to fight Arthur himself. He just has to threaten to leave and take all of his friendes, right? Assay your friendes, and I will assay mine, right? If he and his own vassals, Gawayne and Gawayne's own vassals, leave the court, Arthur's a sitting duck. He's gone from having this huge fellowship to having almost no fellowship at all, right? And then he would be a prey to any of the kings in the near, the king with 100 knights could easily come down and take him out now, right? That king with 100 knights who's been around since the very beginning. Arthur is in a tough place. Taking the half of his court to fight the other half of his court in war against Lancelot, there's no way that ends well. But if both Lancelot and Gawayne leave, that's already ended pretty badly. Hard to get much worse than that, no matter what happens. Arthur's in a pretty tough political situation here, because of first what Lancelot has done, what Lancelot and Guinevere have done, and then because of Sir Gawayne's seeking vengeance. Notice, though, although it's tempting to be like, now this is the Sir Gawayne we've all gotten to know and hate over the course of this book, it's not exactly. The old Sir Gawayne wouldn't have done this, right? He wants to have single combat with Lancelot, right? I shall slay him, other else he shall slay me. He's not, the old Sir Gawayne would have had him whacked, right? He would have ambushed him with 4 or 5 other people and stabbed him in the back. That's what the old Gawayne would have done, right? The new Gawayne, at least, is essentially wanting a trial, I will fight with Lancelot, right? And one of us will kill the other one. We'll see, we'll see how that turns out, right? So even in his implacable desire for revenge against Sir Lancelot, he's different than he was before. And it is, Karita, I agree with you. It's easier to empathize with Sir Gawayne here. What he's doing isn't right, but it's not totally wrong either. You can understand it, at least. You can feel for it. And again, so you can again do the many levels here with this, right? Again, Lancelot did kind of commit what is kind of murder by killing these guys who were his friends and who were unarmed, right? That is an unknightly deed. Manslaughter, not murder, because he didn't know it. He didn't mean it, right? But still. Anyway, it's all complicated. So Gawayne and Arthur attack Joyous Gard, and Lancelot refuses to fight Arthur. And anon there began a great stour, and much people were slain, and ever Sir Launcelot did what he micht to salve the people on King Arthur's party. For Sir Bors and Sir Palomides and Sir Saphir overthrew many Connectus, for they were deadly Connectus, and Sir Blamor de Ganus and Sir Bleoberis, with Sir Belinger le Buse, these 6 Connectus did much harm, and ever was King Arthur about Sir Launcelot to have slain him, and ever Sir Launcelot suffered him, and wold not strike again. So Sir Bors encountered with King Arthur, and Sir Bors smote him, and so he leeked, and drew his sword, and said to Sir Launcelot, Sir, shall I make an end of this war? For he meant to have slain him. Not so hardy, sighed Sir Launcelot, upon pine of thy head, that thou touch him no more, for I will never see that most noble king that mad me knecht, nother slain nor shamed. And therewithal Sir Launcelot leeked off his horse, and took up the king, and horsed him again, and said thus, My lord the king, for God is love, stint this strife, for ye get here no worship, and I will do mine utterance. But alwise I forbear you, and ye nor none of your forbeareth not me, and therefore I think I'm missing something here. My lord, right, an L, that's what I'm missing. And therefore, my lord, I pray you remember what I have done in many places, and now am I evil rewarded. So when King Arthur was on horseback, he looked on Sir Launcelot. Then the tears brast out of his eyen, thinking of the great courtesy that was in Sir Launcelot more than in any other man. And therewith the king rode his way, and might no longer behold him, saying to himself, Alas, alas, that ever yet this war began. Remember all those scenes back in the beginning of, in the battles in the early days of King Arthur, when like we just had one dude after another, right? One king after another getting unhorsed, and then somebody taking somebody else's horse and rehorsing him, and he said gramercy, right? Remember all those fun scenes? We get that again here, right, at the end. Except notice the difference, right? Sir Lancelot gives Arthur his own horse, right? He doesn't just go and take the horse. He doesn't just go and, knock one of the other Orkney knights off their horses and give that horse to Arthur, right? Not only, of course, is he horsing somebody who's on the other side, but he gives him his own horse, showing clearly, right? I am putting myself at disadvantage. I am forbearing you. I'm not trying to fight. If I were really trying to fight, I would probably keep my horse, right? Might be handy. Yeah. And yes, Carrie, we should certainly be remembering David and King Saul here. Those couple flashes when King Saul realizes that he was in David's power, but that David didn't kill him, right? David chose not to kill him, and he briefly kind of repents of being a jerk to David, and then relapses thereafter, right? It does recall that scene, but it's different, right? The forbearance is similar, though the motivation is different. And Arthur doesn't relapse, right? He does not want to fight Lancelot. Now, though you'll notice he was gunning for him, right, to kill him. Possibly through expediency. Good way to end the war, right? To kill Sir Lancelot. Probably the rest of his kin will swear vengeance and it'll just continue. Yeah. Then the Pope intervenes. And the Pope threatens to put his interdiction over all of Logres if they don't reconcile, right? The Pope tries to do what the Pope does, right? Which is like he sees complete collapse is imminent, right? And so he tries to fix the situation. We can fix the situation if Arthur will agree to take Guinevere back and not burn her at the stake, and Lancelot will give her up, then everybody can like go home and stop this war. So the bishop comes to deliver this message to Lancelot. So Juan the bishop was come to Joyous-Gard. There he showed Sir Launcelot how he come from the Pope with greeting unto King Arthur and unto him. And there he told him the perilous, if he withheld the queen from the king. The perils, like what the Pope is threatening, if he continues to withhold the queen. Sire, it was never in my thought, said Sir Launcelot, to withhold the queen from my lord Arthur, but I keep her for this cause, insomuch as she should have be brent for my sack. Meseemeth it was my part to salve her life, and put her from that danger till better recover might come. And now I thank God, said Sir Launcelot, that the Pope hath made her peace, for God canoeth, said Sir Launcelot, I will be 1,000-fold more gladder to bring her again than ever I was of her taking away. With this I may be sure to come south and go south, and that the queen shall have her liberty, and never for nothing that hath be surmised afore this time, that she never from this stond in no peril. For else, sighed Sir Launcelot, I dare adventure me to keep her from an harder shower than ever yet I had. Once again, boy, Lancelot would have been a really good lawyer, right? I agree that I would give her back, as long as he promises, A, to give me safe contact there, but he won't capture me when I'm giving back the queen. B, that he will not imprison the queen when he gets her back, right? C, that he's not going to go ahead and burn her at the stake after this, right? D, that she will not be accused of any crime, of any of the things that nothing that has been merely surmised. Notice his use of the word surmised, because nothing's been proven. She had no trial, right? So that, that these accusations will not be raised again, that like the king will not only let her off the punishment, right, the burning at the stake or imprisonment, but that he'll drop all charges, right, and not hold the surmises against her. If he will do all those things, then I'd be happy to give her back. In fact, of course, as he points out, and as we know to be true, at least it's what he and Bors said, that was his plan all along. Right? He's like, you don't have to beg me. Right? It was never in my thought to withhold the queen from King Arthur. I was just saving her life. And I love how he says, if unless Arthur will agree to do the right thing, by her and by me, then I dare adventure me to keep her from a harder shower than ever yet I had, right? Then I'll defend her against, against a much bigger attack than I've received yet, right? What I have fought off so far is nothing, right? I would face 3 times. I'd be willing to face 3 times as much if I had to. So he does. It's agreed. He's going to give her back. All's well. So whan Sir Launcelot saw the king and Sir Gawayne, then he lad the queen by the arm, and then he canailed down and the queen both. Wit you well, than was there many a bold knight with King Arthur that wept as tenderly as they had seen all their kin dead afore them. So the king sat still and sighed no word. And when Sir Launcelot saw his countenance, he arose up and pulled up the queen with him, and thus he said full knightly, My most redoubted king, ye shall understand by the Pope's commandment and yours, I have brought to you my lady the queen, as right requireth. And if there be any knight of what degree that ever he be of, except your person, that will say or dare say, but that she is true and clean to you, I here myself, Sir Launcelot du Lac, will make it good upon his body that she is a true lady unto you. But, sir, liars, to liars ye have listened, that hath caused great debate betwixt you and me. For time hath been, my lord Arthur, that ye were greatly pleased with me when I did battle for my lady, your queen, and full well ye knew, my most noble king, that she hath be put to great wrong or this time. And sithen it pleased you at many times that I should fecht for her, therefore meseemeth, my good lord, I had more cause to rescue her from the fire than she should have been brent for my sake. Notice the same thing again. This is almost completely right. Has King Arthur listened to liars? Yeah. Yes, he has. Gawayne is lying. Right? Gawayne is exaggerating things. He doesn't even know. Right? He's just... Gawayne is ever open-mouthed. Right? He's a slandermonger and a jerk and a murderer. Right? Gawayne is way worse than Gawayne even was. Back in, his bad old days. And that hath caused great debate betwixt you and me. Yeah. Remember, Gawayne saw it. Oh, Gawayne, right? He saw it. For time hath been, my lord Arthur, that you were greatly pleased with me when I did battle for my lady. Yeah, remember, that was exactly the speech that Arthur made after the whole Sir Mador de la Porte incident, right? With the poison apple thing, right? Remember how grateful Arthur was that he was her champion then? You know well that she hath been put to great wrong, or this time, right? She's been falsely accused before, and I defended her when no one else would. Yeah, remember that? Mm-hmm. It's pleased you many times before, therefore. And this time, I had the more cause because she was being falsely accused with me, right, for my sake. It's all true. It's all true. It's even true that he was intending to keep her to return to the king. That he never took her in order to keep her, right? And that we... Not only do I have no reason to believe that Lancelot and Guinevere have been sleeping together while in Joyous Gard. I do not have any reason to believe that, right? But it seems perfectly true that Lancelot really was just keeping her safe. And really meant to give her back to Arthur, should Arthur show himself to be no longer in a queen-burning frame of mind, right? But we still can't avoid the fact we should still feel a little bit uncomfortable when he offers to make good upon anyone's body that she is a true laddie unto him, right? Unto her husband. She's not. And even if she is true, generally speaking, she is not clean. We've seen how unclean she is. She is covered in blood. This again is where that image, that visual image of her drenched in blood, right? Dried blood, caked in blood the next morning, is so powerful, right? Clean is what he's saying she is. And we saw how unclean she has become. Both of them have become. Devore is asking, does Lancelot know at this point that he killed Gareth? Yes, he knows. He knows. And is pretty sad about it. Yes. He tries to make up with Gawayne. But this much I shall offer me to you, sighed Sir Launcelot. If it may please the King's good grace and you, my lord Sir Gawayne, I shall first begin at Sandwich, and there I shall go in my shirt, barefoot, and at every 10 miles' end I shall found and garmak an house of religious, of what order that ye will assign me, with an holy covent, to sing and read day and nicht in especial for Sir Gareth's sake and for Sir Gaheris. And thus shall I perform from Sandwich unto Carlisle, and every house shall have sufficient live-load. And this shall I perform while I have any live-load in Christendom. And there is none of all these religious places, but they shall be performed, furnished, and garnished with all things as an holy place ought to be. And this were fairer and more holier and more perfect to their souls than ye, my most noble king, and you, Sir Gawayne, to war upon me, for thereby shall ye get none avail. Then all the knights and laddies that were there wept as they were mad, and the tears fell on King Arthur his cheekes. All right. Lancelot makes a large proffer here, right? He is expressing his grief to Gawayne, right? His desire to do what he can't undo it, right? The damage is done. Gareth and Gaheris are dead. That can't be undone. So what can he do? How can he make it up? What could he possibly offer? He can offer an act of personal penance, right? That is, he's going to wear a shirt, which means a hair shirt. He's going to wear a hair shirt and walk barefoot from Sandwich. Somebody remind me my English geography. South coast? Sandwich? I know it's on the coast, right? To Carlisle, up in the... He's going to walk the length of England, right? On foot, in a hair shirt. And every 10 miles along the way, he is going to found a house of religious. Religious means monks or friars, like those who swear orders. So he's going to found a monastery every 10 miles, the whole length of England that he walks, right? And he's going to found that, you know, that abbey or that convent or that monastery, right? And he's going to pay for it, right? So he's going to furnish it, and he's going to give it sufficient livelihood, income, right? So he'll bestow a regular income upon each one of these abbeys every 10 miles. It's in Kent. That's where I thought it was. Yeah, down on the southeast coast. So he's going to go from Kent to Carlisle. That's just about as far as you can go within England, right? Without crossing up into Scotland or doing something crazy like that, you know, up there where the Orkney boys are from. He's going to go the length of England. Like one of the longest distances you can go and stay in England, right? From Sandwich to Carlisle. Hey, those of you who are mapping it, how many miles? Somebody do some Google directions. Get me walking directions from Sandwich to Carlisle, right? And tell me how many miles that is. 376 miles. Thank you. 376 miles. So Lancelot is offering to establish and ordain 37.6. 37.6. Let's round it up to an even 38, right? 38 religious houses across the breadth of England. Why? Do you understand why? What good does he hope to do? What good does he hope to do by founding all of these religious houses? Why is he offering to found religious houses? Notice he's anticipating that this is going to cost him everything he has, right? He will do this while that I have any leavelode in Christendom. I'm going to spend all of my own living, right? I'm going to mortgage everything I have in order to pay for these religious houses. Exactly, Carita, to pray for their souls. That's what they're going to do. This were fairer and more holier and more perfect to their souls. Right? You making war on me is not going to do Gareth and Gaheris a lick of good. But if I ordain somewhere between, we have a discrepancy. Devora gets 357 miles. I guess it probably depends on which parts of Sandwich or Carlisle you start in. But anyway, I'm going to ordain between 35 and 40 religious houses, right? And I'm going to... What are they going to do there? What? I'm going to fill it full of monks and nuns who are going to sing and read Day and Nicht in especial for Sir Gareth Sack and Sir Gaheris. I'm going to ordain a bunch of religious houses which will be specially dedicated to praying for the souls of Gareth and Gaheris. Lancelot can't take it back. He can't undo it, right? The unhap has occurred and he can't help that, but he can still help them. Bear in mind, this is understood to be efficacious, right? If you are a medieval reader, you appreciate this, right? You can actually do good. By saying prayers for the soul of those departed, you can shorten their time in purgatory, right? They can get to heaven sooner. Real concrete good can be done. Gareth and Gaheris can benefit from this. It is still in his power, Lancelot's power, to do good for them even though they're already dead. But there's really only one way that he can do good for them, and that's this way. So I will sacrifice all of my worldly possessions for this, right? And also I will take this personal penance upon myself, a barefoot, hair shirt pilgrimage from one end of England to the other, showing my own remorse, sacrificing everything I have to try to do some good for Gareth and Gaheris. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah, I see Craig was thinking about that too. Yeah, interesting. DeForest says the driving directions are more miles than the walking directions. yeah, okay. All right. So yeah, Lancelot wouldn't have been like, walking up the M4 or whatever. Yeah. So Brian, you're absolutely right. Gawayne should be open to forgiveness, right? One of the things that Lancelot he's putting it all out there, right? He cares. He cares about Sir Gawayne, or Sir Gareth and Sir Gaheris, right? He's trying to do them good. Gawayne's vengeance won't do them any good, right? All it does is serve Gawayne's own feelings, right? His own anger, his own wrath and vengefulness, which, again, like, everybody gets that. Everybody understands it, right? But yes, he should be more concerned about forgiveness and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Gawayne still won't have it. And therewith he brought the queen to the king, and then Sir Launcelot took his leave and departed. And there was neither king, duke, earl, baron, nor knight, laddie nor gentlewoman, but all they wept as people out of mind, except Sir Gawayne. And when this noble knight Sir Launcelot took his horse to ride out of Carkhill, there was sobbing and weeping for pure dole of his departing. And so he took his way to Joyous Gard, and then ever after he called it the Dolorous Gard. And thus departed Sir Launcelot from the court forever. What a sentence. And thus departed Sir Launcelot from the court forever. It's over. It's over. And boy, is there a lot of crying, Karita. Absolutely. Everybody, no exceptions. Well, except the peasants, but they don't count. Everybody, right, who counts is weeping, right? Weeping like they're out of their mind. Except Sir Gawayne. This is awful, awful sad. Sir Gawayne insists he and Arthur follow Lancelot to France, right, to Lancelot's own homelands that he's not seen in goodness knows how long. And finally, Lancelot is forced to agree to come out and fight Sir Gawayne one-on-one, right? And now we get this description of this whole business with Gawayne's strength sort of magically increasing for 3 hours before noon. We heard about this briefly back in the Sir Marhault section. That is not before Sir Tristram killed him. The Marhault, Gawayne, and Uwaine section, you may recall. We learned about this in his fight with Sir Marhault, who also withstood him for the 3 hours and then took him down afterwards. We haven't had any reference to this little factoid about Sir Gawayne since then. Then had Sir Gawayne such a grace and gift that an holy man had given him, that every day in the year, from undern till high noon, his meat increased though 3 hours, as much as thrice his strength. And that caused Sir Gawayne to win great honour. And for his sake King Arthur made an ordinance that all manner of battailes for any quarrels that should be done afore King Arthur should begin at undern. And all was done for Sir Gawayne's love, that by likelihood, if Sir Gawayne were on the ton party, he should have the better in battaile, while his strength endured 3 hours. But there were that time but few knights living that knew this advantage that Sir Gawayne had, but King Arthur all only. So Sir Launcelot fought with Sir Gawayne, and when Sir Launcelot felt his meat evermore increase, Sir Launcelot wondered, and drad him sore to be shamed, for as the French book saith, he wend, when he felt Sir Gawayne double his strength, that he had been a fiend, and none earthly man. Wherefore Sir Launcelot traced and traversed, and covered himself with his shield, and kept his meat and his breath during 3 hours. And that while Sir Gawayne gaf him many sad brunters, and many sad strokes, and all knights that beheld Sir Launcelot marviled how he might endure him, but full little understood they that travail that Sir Launcelot had to endure him. Right? All Sir Lancelot's kin are looking on, and they think Sir Lancelot's sandbagging out there, right? They're like, why isn't he mopping the floor with Sir Gawayne right now? Nobody understands, and Sir Lancelot gets a little bit spooked when he feels Gawayne's strength double and then triple during those 3 hours from undern until high noon. Yeah, nice to have the reemergence of his superpower right at the end here, Nancy. Devora, they have jousted before. You may remember near the end of the book of Sir Lancelot, when Sir Lancelot, while he was in Kay's armor, he jousted with Sir Gawayne, and not only did he knock Gawayne off his horse, or did he knock him down horse and man, but he flipped Gawayne's horse upside-down. Remember that? So they've encountered with each other before, but he's certainly never fought him to the utterance, and I think rarely even fought him on foot ever before. And yeah, Devore, that was the wrong time of day, because that was just a random encounter in the middle of the day. King Arthur has arranged to have all formal trial combats happen during the time of Gawayne's extra strength, right? And yes, David, is it a dishonorable thing? Well, a little bit dishonorable. Certainly openly advantageous to Gawayne. And yes, none of Gawayne's opponents would reasonably know. Yeah, so that, yeah. I don't know what to make of this being a grace and gift that an holy man had given him. Holy man in what sense? He was blessed? This is a miraculous blessing? Is this holy man like a holy man who studied nigromancy at one of those schools? I mean, those seem to be mostly all girl schools so far, but we've seen fiends, and we've seen that like fake priests, and we've seen real holy hermits, and we've seen holy nuns and holy female recluses, and we've seen female fiends in female costume, and we've seen sorceresses all over the place, but we have not yet seen, have we, like a human male sorcerer? Merlin. Not since Merlin, anyway. Merlin kind of stands out in that way. Yeah. Anyway. But, Carrie, this does... it kind of makes me think of doping, too. It's a little bit like a steroid scandal here, right, with Gawayne. Yeah. For when Sir Launcelot felt Sir Gawayne's might so marvellously increase, he then withheld his courage and his wind, and so he kept him under covert of his might and of his shield. He traced and traversed here and there to break Sir Gawayne's strokes and his courage. And ever Sir Gawayne enforced himself with all his might and power to destroy Sir Launcelot, for, as the French book saith, ever as Sir Gawayne's might increased, right so increased his wind and his evil will. That's interesting. And this is one of the reasons that makes me wonder how sketchy was this blessing that was given, this gift that was given to Sir Gawayne. And thus he did great pine unto Sir Launcelot 3 hours, that he had much ado to defend him. And when the 3 hours were past, that he felt Sir Gawayne was come home to his own proper strength, then Sir Launcelot said, Sir, now I have praved you twice. This is the second fight, of course. That ye are a full dangerous knight, and a wonderful man of your might, and many wonder deeds have ye done in your days. For by your might increasing ye have deceived many a full noble knight, and now I feel that ye have done your mighty deeds. Now, wit you well, I must do my deeds. And then Sir Launcelot strode near Sir Gawayne, and doubled his strokes, and ever Sir Gawayne defended him mightily. But nevertheless Sir Launcelot smote such a stroke upon his helm, and upon the old wound, that Sir Gawayne sank down and swooned. And anon as he did awak, he wived and foined at Sir Launcelot as he lie, and sighed, Traitor knight, wit thou well I am not yet slain. Therefore come thou near me, and perform this battile to the utterance. I'll bite your legs off. Yes. Gawayne's insistence. Lancelot has beaten him once. You may remember. You may not. This was a rather small detail. Back when Tristram and Lancelot fought that one time by the rock, that Merlin had carved in advance to commemorate the fight years before it happened. Malory told us that Sir Tristram is actually stronger than Sir Lancelot. He was a bigger man than Sir Lancelot, but that Sir Lancelot was better breathed. Lancelot has better endurance. Tristram actually stronger, but Sir Lancelot has better endurance. Gawayne, therefore, kind of plays into Lancelot's hands here. Notice the sense of inevitability with this, right? Even when Lancelot perceives the magical advantage that Gawayne obviously has, it's still, the whole thing is still just a matter of time, right? And the fact that he hits him twice in the head in exactly the same place, right, is just this recapitulation, right? Gawayne, there's only one way that this can end. the self-destructiveness of the course that Gawayne has set. Self-destructive for himself, destructive for Arthur's court. Gawayne is very much in the wrong here, though still kind of understandable. And he's not the only one in the wrong. Again, it's all complicated still. Yeah. And David, I agree. The presence of mind and the cunning, the courage, the spirit of Sir Lancelot, his indomitable spirit is a very big part of his success here. Yeah. Let's see. Now, let's come back to the sudden but inevitable betrayal next time. Now we're getting to Mordred. So Gawayne is taken very desperately wounded with his head wound, right? But this is when they're going to hear about Mordred back home, because of course Arthur left Mordred in charge of the country and of Guinevere, while Arthur and Gawayne were off to fight Lancelot. And we all know how that's going to turn out. We'll leave it here for now, and we'll pick this up again next week. Not next week, next class, which is the week after this. So 2 weeks, a fortnight from tonight, we'll come back and we will get through the end. I'm now, having gotten halfway through the slides for tonight, I am confident we'll do the other half next time, just as I laid it out at the beginning. So May 1st, we'll finish the text. May 8th, we'll look at Monty Python and the Holy Grail, one of the greatest Arthurian movie of all time. And then on the 15th, we will start Sauron Defeated. All right. Thanks for joining me, everybody. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye now.
The Mythgard Academy has been offering in-depth discussions of awesome books and films since 2013, completely free to attend and free to download. If you've enjoyed our discussions and would like to help them continue, please consider donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.